Hello, 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 hello. How's it going? How is everybody? Sorry about that. Little technical snafu. Everything can't go perfect all the time, can it? Come on. Come on. You gotta laugh at those kinds of things. How's everyone feeling? Fantastic, I hope. This is very exciting for me. I hope you know that this has been a long time in coming, but for the life of me, I don't know why it took me so long to figure this out. You are obviously, if you don't know what the heck's going on, like, where am I right now? If that's you, that's okay. Welcome. You're currently watching the AnimGym critique webcast on KennyRoy.com. This is for the first month of AnimGym, which is my monthly animation exercise. Basically, just to give you the short rundown of what it is, I've asked every animator I know who I respect and idolize what they would change if they could go back and learn animation all over again. What's the one thing that they would change? And my answer has always been the same. It's always been, I wish I did a lot more of a lot less. Instead of doing huge, gigantic multi-character dialogue sequences and gigantic projects, I wish I just did like tests, 48 to 72 frame tests, and that's it. And I have this website. It's called KennyRoy.com. I've been doing it for 3 years now, and finally it dawned on me. And here we are. Here we are in the AnimGym, and I just want everyone to know that every single KennyRoy.com member who's a part of the AnimGym, if you submit your animation, you will get a critique at the end of the month. Okay? So everybody gets a critique. It's like Oprah. Everybody gets a critique. You get a critique. You get a critique. You get a critique. Okay? So that's the deal. And because, I mean, the way I figure, all the other like contests, they're great and whatever, and it's fine for us to be competing against each other, but we shouldn't be competing against each other all the time. We should be learning some of the time. And ostensibly, the person who wins the contest probably is the person who least needs that critique, right? So let's treat this like a real gym. That you have to go, you have to do the work, you have to put in the work. You're not going to get stronger in a real gym unless you go there and you work, right? The same thing here, but if you work, you will be rewarded. So that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing. I don't know how long it's going to take, because I'm just going to go through. I have six entries from KennyRoy.com members. There were about 30 to 40 people participating, giving notes and critiquing and working in the forums for the first one here. The animation that you're going to see is from the KennyRoy.com members. If you are a free trial member, you can still do the AnimGym. That still counts, okay? So there's a link below this video right now that to sign up for the free trial. So if you like this month's topic, and you want to get a critique next month, then sign up for the free trial, do your AnimGym, and you'll get one. And that seems like a pretty darn good deal. $0, you get all 8 video mails from the past 2 months, 2 lectures, all the resources in the resources section, plus a free critique from me from the AnimGym. Sounds like a pretty good idea. Sounds like a great deal. So if you haven't thought about that, you haven't done it yet, go ahead and do the trial, okay? So let's dive in. I don't think any of these have sound, but I have my headphones just in case. I don't think they have sound, but let's start rocking and rolling and going and growing and flowing and showing. All right, here we go. Up first, oh, and by the way, up first, these are going to be in no particular order. So I want to emphasize that there's no winners here. This is not about winning. This is about improving. Okay. So let's get started. Okay. Let's go with, let's just go alphabetical. That's a good way. Make sure there's no winners and losers here. DJ Anderson, Mr. DJ, let's start with you. Here we go. Okay. 55 frames. This is a winner. I know I said there's no winners, but if there ever was a winner, already this guy is it. 55 frames. That's how you do it. By the way, 48 to 72 frames. Every single one of these tests that we do are going to be 48 to 72 frames. Why? 2 to 3 seconds is the normal length of a shot in a feature, somewhere actually 3 to 5 seconds, but you know, with the three, getting good at doing a 3-second beat is a perfect way to get even practice on your workflow. Okay, so that's why we have this frame limit. Okay, and thank you, by the way, for putting your frame counter here, so that I don't have to get fancy and do it. It's going to be really hard to critique without that frame counter. Okay, first thing right off the bat, DJ, I would say is that those that two-staged thing that you do, two like the number 2, not TOO, that two-staged thing that you do, they definitely should not be the same size. So he flips it and like his whole body reacts to getting that hat on his hand, and then it does the exact same thing again. So it's like A to B and then A to B again. That repetition is not really the strongest way to kind of set this up and keep it visually interesting. Okay. But definitely not a bad idea, definitely not on the wrong track or anything like that. Just always, it should be part of your workflow to, kind of like take a second to triage your ideas to make like a comparison of the of the beats of this thing. So just like right off the bat, maybe you want to one thing that I do is make like sort of like an energy chart, okay? And this energy chart is basically like, you know, how is like the size of the gesture or the speed of the gesture? How is that like flowing through the through the scene? And for this one right now, if you're going to do an energy chart kind of afterwards, it would look, right now it would be like two mountains that are the exact same size. Okay. Shrad SC, this is recording right now, yes, so you will be able to watch this later. But if people in the webcast, I'm giving away a copy of my book. Oh, I don't have it here. I'll run and grab it, of Sam's Teach Yourself Maya in 24 Hours, brand new book that just came out this summer, and it basically has a generalist run through of the entire package of Maya, cover to cover. So it's pretty cool. Anyway, so yes, but this will be recorded, Shred. This is recorded, not will be. It is recording right now. Okay, so back to the work here. So basically, yeah, just those kind of like two sizes, it feels repetitive and the same size. So I would tone that first one down, okay? It seems as though you're having just a little bit of a problem with the constraint, and I think you and I had a conversation by email asking about the kind of constraint setup that would happen with this hat. I almost would say that if you don't have the Shred, this is being recorded. Let me just tell you this. Being recorded. Okay. So let me just say, if you don't have like total control, I mean like mastery of the constraint, then do your whole animation without the hat there. Because it's an easy thing to do to kind of like get the hat in place and then kind of like or get the hand in place and then kind of like tweak the hat and like adjust the hand and then the finger pose and whatever to make it work with the hat, or to make it work with the body performance and the the full body head to toe performance that you've come up with. That's kind of my feeling. Okay. Next thing is that we kind of not only get the same sort of energy and size in his body, but we get the same kind of like pose change. We get basically bend in the spine. Whereas you might want to anticipate by bending in the spine, and then when it flips up, you might want to take it the other way, so you kind of get like a reversal. So he kind of is trying to like line it up like a seal bouncing a ball on his nose. He's trying to get that hat on his head, and he takes it like that instead. So it's spine bend to anticipate, and then catches it. It's more translation in the hips downwards to take that hat falling on his head. Okay. This foreground hand as well is a little bit large. It's a little bit distracting. How much it is kind of moving back and forth. I would tone that down. And again, it does the same thing. It kind of like moves up and then it moves up again. I always caution people against doing the same kinds of things like, you know, all on a line. It kind of feels like the body is a little bit mechanical. It's like robotic. There's joints that only bend one way. That's the impression that I get. He looks like he has a little bit of doll eyes. Doll eyes are where the eyes don't like track an object. They're just kind of like stuck with the head. I'm not sure if you are what you're using. If you're using either an eye target or if you're using just like movers on the eyes. But it's good to establish some eye lines. And for this, it would be good to establish an eye line very far away, so it kind of you know, keeps those eyes nice and calm for what he's doing. Okay, silhouette-wise, everything seems pretty strong. You're not really losing too much to silhouette. I wouldn't say that you're making him move all that much. It's mostly like bending the spine and up and down. But you know, regardless, it still works pretty well. You want to cheat this smile a lot more towards camera, and just in terms of like facial pose and facial animation. If you had, you know, a little bit of cheek on this side. You know, I think this would read just a little bit nicer. That there is there's this image that goes around that talks about like the DreamWorks face, which is like, you know, everyone's turned 3/4 and the smile's like cheated. Well, it's an appealing smile. You can't fault, you know, all the people that pose the characters for the posters for you know, using that super appealing smile, because that's what it really is. This feels, it's almost cheated away from camera. Okay, and the last thing I wanted to say about this one is that the hand poses that you're using are very, very cool. I mean, I like that he catches on the back of his hand. You do contact a little bit weirdly in that the hat and the hand kind of like stall into the exact same position. I would probably have like that frame of contact happen between frames, so that he might be trying to like really stall it nice and gently, but they don't come to like a perfect stop, both of them at the exact same frame. Okay, maybe rewatch the contact lecture that's in this in the store. And you'll see what I'm talking about. And then when it comes down, obviously this hand is like IK and static, and it's not moving and it's not doing anything. That needs to be broken up. Overall, though, I would say this is very good. I'm really encouraged by the fact that you've used the full body. You know, it wasn't just, you know, arm that placed something on his head and just like a little bit of reaction. You really tried to make this like a big action. He did a little bit of a trick, a hat trick with his hat, and that's also ambitious and great. And it looks like you got through pretty much your entire workflow, because you got to a little bit. I see a little bit of facial animation. You know, there's an eye blink in there. There's you know, there's an eye blink. Where is it? There it is. There's an eye blink right there, and you have the facial pose change. So it seems like you're getting a lot of even practice on there. So I would say this is very successful. Where I would move on from this is I would break those joints off of like just the single axis that they're moving. I would have a little bit more of a coherent and kind of interesting energy timeline of this shot, and just worry about things like, you know, twinning and breaking up those IK kind of like frozen moments as well. So DJ, this is very good. Let's all give DJ a hand. I'm not sure how you're going to clap in the chat here, but good job, DJ. And let's move on. Let's move on. Really, really cool. Don't save. Jeff Rappus. Jeff Rappus. Here we go. Yeah. The reason I like to, right off the bat, I mean, these are the first time, by the way, these are the first time I'm watching these. I want you guys to get my first impression, because I think it's really valuable to just have somebody kind of just boom, punch, react to it. The reason why this is working already for me is because it has a really nice contrast of large and small, of slow and quick, just like that I love when there's a contrast there for me to see. And the contrast we're seeing is the lean into the hat, and then as the hat is coming back, it's basically the adjustment, it turns into that micro. So it's a slow into a pose, but we're still getting that contrast, that visual interest up here. That's very, very, very good stuff, Jeff, and I'm proud of you for getting that in. Here's what I would say. When he leans in, it feels very full body, which is fine. But it also feels like everything comes to a little bit too much of a perfect stop on his body, just to me. I would say that if you see how much his head and his arms are moving just in these 5 or 6 frames right here, and everything else is perfectly still, you can do just a breath of a moving hold. You can do just a tiny little bit, just make sure the pixels are just breathing, okay? That's all you need in those moments. Anything less is a little bit distracting. Anything more is a little distracting. So find that middle ground. I'm also a huge proponent, guys, of doing exercises and tests within your shot. Not only doing 48 to 72 frame shots just as exercises themselves, but also as you're working, say to yourself, okay, well, I can do it this way, or I can do it this and add 2 frames just to that settle. Which one looks better? And don't judge it until you see it. That's my other big piece of advice. Don't say to yourself, oh, it could be this way or it could be that way. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm just going to keep on animating. I think forget it. I'm not even going to try it. No, don't do that. Just try it both ways. It takes 10 minutes to add 1 frame to a big long action. Probably less if you have a lot of workflow practice doing this. So you can get it down to 2 minutes, and then you get, for that 2 minutes of really easy work, you get an even better result. I mean, it's a huge payoff for the amount of effort that you're putting into it. So start making experimentation part of your workflow, and it'll get faster and faster as well. I'm not a huge proponent of this. I'm not quite sold on both hands coming way outwards in order to get to that hat up here. It almost doesn't feel like twinning, but it almost kind of it's a little bit camera aware for me. It probably the culprit is more the screen left hand than the screen right hand. We don't always want to, when we say staging in theater, and cheat out is a phrase. Well, if you're on a stage and someone is standing opposite you from stage, well, you don't talk to somebody with your chest turned towards 3/4 away from them and your head turned just maybe split the difference. So you don't. But this is how you speak to someone on stage. Why? So the audience can see your body and they can see your body language and your pose. And when you're gesturing, it's interesting. So it's not profile and boring like all of these gestures, right? So that kind of staging translates onto film. The very first films, they would basically film, exactly. They would basically put on a play, and the staging was the exact same thing. The edge of the screen was the edge of the stage. It was the very, very, very first films. So a lot has translated, a lot has come into it, and it persists today. So anyway, my point is this, is you don't want to be so camera aware that every single one of your characters is always cheated out. Every single one of your shots has no profiles or no straight-ons. And in this shot, I know that this ostensibly this could be one shot out of a dozen in a film, but you also don't want to be hey everybody, check out my gigantic arc on here. I'm not, no confusing silhouettes for me. Haha, no, I'm too smart for that. Here's my, arc on my hands. It feels a little bit camera aware. That's kind of what I wanted to say. But I do like that it doesn't, just go straight up. So maybe not so far out. Don't be so afraid of getting just like a little bit of crossover in that silhouette. Maybe losing something just slightly in foreshortening. That's not really as big an issue as it feels like. Feels like you thought it was, to me. Okay. Is it my computer skipping, or does this have a frame missing? Oh, no, it was my computer. When he leans back, for me, this lean back happens a little bit too quick in rotation of the spine and not translation of the hips. Marry those two together a little bit more would be my advice. This is very strong. I'm getting nitpicky. Whenever I get nitpicky, you can tell that it's a good piece of work. And I like this. This just feels, the last thing I'll say about this is the ending just feels like, he's going up onto his toes and like he's doing almost like a performance of like, I'm done, You can imagine me looking at you and being like, oh, hey everybody, I'm done, right? Whereas if he actually is satisfied and he's not around anybody, which it doesn't look like he is, he would probably do that more along the lines of like a breath, right? So he'd be like, so there's a little bit of what you have. I did go up onto my toes just a little bit, but it was more like rotation and scale in the chest, wasn't it? So maybe consider making that just a little bit more of like a celebratory big exhale than just up and down, like, here we go, kind of movement. That'd be the last thing I'd say. Actually, it's the second to last thing I'd say. Don't be afraid of like everything not coming to a perfect halt at the end of your shot. Animate through the shot. So if he's done and his arms are coming to his hips, frame 72 doesn't have to be the frame when his arms hit his hips. It also feels a little bit aware of the time that you have. Okay, and in film we animate all the way through the shot. We animate all the way through the handles, right? So we animate way more than through the end of the shot. Everything always has to feel like time goes on. Okay, this is great work. I'm very, very proud of you, man. Good job. Let's give Jeff a round of applause. All right, up next, Constantine Chenchikov. If I murder your name, I apologize. I'm only human, and a flawed one at that. This is pretty cool. What I like about it is that the hat comes out of nowhere. I'm big on cartoony animation, if you guys haven't been able to tell that already. Members of KennyRoy.com will be very well aware of my obsession with cartoony animation. So I'm cool with the concept. I'm cool with the hat coming out of nowhere. However, the fact that you've chosen to get the hat out of nowhere from behind him, but then staging him so that he turns profile and we lose the entire reveal basically of that hat in foreshortening as that hand, that hand finally comes out around and we get to see where it is. We end up only getting like a 3 or 4 frame read on that hat before it's plopped on his head. Right? We want more time than that. I'm not going to count that frame. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. 6 it's on there. 5 frames. We only get a 5 frame read on that hat. Wouldn't it be a little cooler if, he pulls it out of nowhere, but you stage it in such a way that he reaches and then produces this hat and then plops it on his head? How much cooler would it be to get a beat where you have like a read of that hat and plop it on. That's just my feeling. I think that there's a slightly stronger way to stage this. I think there's more interest that can be found in this one, and I'm trying to help you to get there, okay? His legs feel like they're a little bit glued to the ground because you're getting so much stretch in these legs. I don't think that is necessary to have him move up so much. I've said that these animation tests, if you only do, like, you animate from the waist up, then you're getting half the practice that you could, right? And that's a huge waste of your time. Why animate half a body when you can animate the full body? So that's fantastic. That shouldn't be construed to mean that every single action needs this gigantic full body wind up at all. So just kind of take the full body mandate to mean that, you know, you should just point your camera at the character. Don't try to find this weird directorial, you know, trick to pull off on us, and just make sure you're centering the weight in the hips, you're aware of the center of gravity, all these things that are aware of the full body mechanics. Okay, so this feels a little bit pushed to be a huge full body action with that. Again, still on the right track, and still a novel idea, and I love cartoony stuff, so you already had me as a fan, you know, right at the beginning of this. Okay. This hand, I would like to see this arm playing a little bit bigger of a role in the weight, a little bit larger role, dictating to the audience where the weight is. What ends up happening, the way you have it right now, is it kind of shoots across and hits a wall. It also hits a straight. Okay, so it becomes so straight right here, and it comes to such a sudden stop that the impression we get is that he's almost kind of counterbalancing with this outstretched arm. Instead of what's actually happening is he's plopping this hat so hard on his head that it's kind of like, you know, what I'd like to see is a little bit of like reaction. See how the arm kind of like drops and does one of, you know, almost getting shook out like a rug or something like that, like boom, boom, like on the head. I'd love to see that kind of reaction. This like straight out that's happening right on that moment gives a totally different impression of the weight. All right. I'd like it to feel all connected. I talk a lot to my students about connection within the body. You know, I have my arms out. If I punch with this one, you know, you see my whole body get, you know, pulled over towards what happens. But if I'm looking, you can't see it, but I'm looking at my fingertips. There's something happening. There's like a little bit of high frequency that travels all the way down my body to my fingertips. This is a fun thing to do. Try it yourself. Put your arms out as wide as you can. Take one arm and punch. And just look what happens all the way down to your fingertips. It's funny because you think that it would be directly connected, but what happens is it is directly connected. There's a pull, but then when you get to the end and there's that high frequency of your elbow straightening and wiggling, it actually travels, and like a second later, your fingertips wiggle. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. So at any rate, I talk a lot about connection in the body. The tips I just gave about having that arm be a little bit more part of that weight explanation, I feel is along the lines of connection, what I like to talk about. In general, a lot of straights in this shot. A lot of straights. I mean, I feel like his foreground leg is pretty much straight, except right there. Pretty much straight the entire shot. Actually, both of his legs. There really are too many straights in this shot. Last thing I'll say is this. Still totally on board. I mean, I think even if you reveal it, in a little bit more strong silhouette and not covered up in foreshortening, whatever, and you want to still like really plop it on the head, have the hand on the hat a little bit longer so it comes down and presses, and then you can come back up out of it. It almost looks like he's hitting it, and then the hand is off, but the body still keeps on going like this. Okay. That feels a little bit more like the body's doing it than the hand is pressing the body down. It's a small timing and posing issue that I'm talking about. Does that make sense? Cool. This is a good effort. Keep on working, man. Thank you, Constantine. Let's give him a round of applause. All right, Lou Repinski. Mr. Lou Repinski. Did I open that yet? Need a little bit of water. Ooh, fancy rig. All right, so let's critique this. Cool. Very cool. Lou, super cool work here. Right off the bat, I feel like you have a great sense of how this should be timed so that there's a clean read on all of your ideas. The sort of like setup of sort of like feeling the weight a little bit, sort of like like negotiating that, getting it into the right hand position. I totally read that. All right, so you took the right amount of time. All right, like all right, here we go, setting it up on the head, slapped it on the head. I love the stall there, so that we see that he's got it, and then the ta-da is a little bit of a surprise. For me, it's a surprise because you do the opposing. This is normal, right? This is good animator stuff to do that opposing action with the head moving away from the hand, a little bit to get that. Yours is funny though, because you actually tilt the chin the other way. So I would say that goes from good animator to very good animator kind of instinct. Very, very, very cool. I just always want to start off by kind of pointing out what's going right. These are great instincts that you've had. Keep it up. Basically is where I wanted to start with that. As I go through this, I would say though that you have a little bit of an arc problem with the hat. I would say that the hat, it almost feels a little bit like you're kind of getting it off screen so that you can twist it, and that twist of that big shape won't be sort of like calculated in the arc that we're seeing. That might not be the case. You might not have been trying to get away with anything, but I would like to see that, and you have gotten the practice of negotiating a big shape. What I'm talking about, for those of you who don't know, here's a sketchbook. This is a big shape, right? If I'm doing an arc where I'm taking it across like this, then you can see that this is clearly like a very smooth arc. Why? Because there's no like pose change going on in there. The second I go from here to here with this book, all right, in the middle of that arc, right, that just changed everything, didn't it? Right? It actually feels like I'm doing the exact same move. I'm still going very smoothly, but it feels like it stalls in the middle, doesn't it? Isn't that cool? And that's because you have that leading edge turning around, and it kind of like in screen space, it kind of stalls on a point. Do you see that? So when we talk about arcs, you talk about arcs of the body. What ends up happening is a funny thing. We sort of start only calculating our arcs based on like the controllers, like literally those boxes on the hands. And we think to ourselves, oh, if that's moving smoothly, well then everything must be fine. Not really, because you have the whole body to work with. There's arcs within the silhouette, okay? Anyway, so I'd like to have seen you, Lou, to have taken the time or shown us that you can work that arc, you can polish that arc, even with that hat having to come up and flip and go onto his the top of his head. I know that was long-winded. I'm trying for everybody to get a little bit of something out of these webcasts, though. It's a little quick from this pose, I think, into this stuck top pose, and I never do, this where the head is almost completely static. Again, I think what I was saying in Jeff's critique is the pixels need to breathe. I mean, just a little bit of something in there. They start moving. I feel like that's a little bit of movement right here. Like, so between like 49 and 52, that's the kind of movement that we need, right off the bat. It's just too static. And ostensibly, it should be moving more at the beginning than the end, because he just did a big action. It would almost feel like a little bit of fall through or overshoot, and then it might settle into just like pixel breathing. I guess what this is missing is a little bit of follow through. That's the easy way to put it for me right now. Very, very cool instinct to have the head tilt opposed to the movement of the head. Very, 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 very cool. It's very cool. Those fingers are a little floppy. But I guess, he's doing sort of the cross-eyed pose, and he's a little bit of a goofball, so that's okay. I just never don't. I never bend fingers backwards, ever. I don't think. A little bit of a weird wobble in the it's the eyebrows. I'm not sure why they go down right here. I would take that out. It might be like anticipation for them going upwards. In fact, there's a little bit of confusion in the eyebrows, just like in general right here. I think they're kind of dancing a little bit too much. The amount of movement that's going on in the shoulder in this section, I would just simplify this way down. It feels like the shoulder is very independent, and we can kind of feel like that point of rotation, within the body. And when that happens, it almost feels like, I'm talking about this section. When that happens, it almost feels like the body is not connected. I'm talking about connectivity again. So what could you do? Maybe this pose right here, you'd have a little bit more of an angle on those shoulders, so that when this one comes down, I'm trying really hard to just move my shoulder. So when this one comes down, it doesn't look like this. We actually get just a little bit more connectivity, a little bit more of that shoulders, both of those shoulders rotating together. Okay? Last thing I'll say about this one is that I don't very strongly feel his feet on the ground or his hips and his waist, kind of like working together to negotiate his weight. I don't feel a very strong impression of him being rooted. And when he moves backwards, it feels like all rotation in the spine, and that it stops a little too quickly. I would split the difference. I would sort of like go back and put as much translation in the hips as you have rotation in the spine, and then slow into the translate, or slow into that stop on the translation. If you're going to keep that rotation still snapping to that. You can snap in the rotation. You can come to a really nice snappy stop. But then if you snap to that, have the hips, like slow into just a little bit of that pose. Okay? Yeah. Just get some translation playing in that strong snappy thing. Very strong. Let's give him a round of applause. Lou, very good. Thank you very much, man. Very good. Okay, Monica Gelberman. Let's see what you brought for us today. Why is it not loading? Come on. Get with the program, quick time. Excuse me. Oh, there it is. Oh, all right. It looks like we got a little bit of a story here. Ooh. Ooh. Okay. 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 All right. So right off the bat, initial reaction, of course, was very, very, very strong. Two things that right off the bat that I like is I feel a lot of connection in the pose here. I feel like he's actually using his body. See how his body goes first and his elbow in one frame maxes out? No, doesn't max out, but it loses range. This is what I'm talking about. That elbow is like sort of bent. It gets less bent right here. Why? Because his arm hasn't moved, his hand hasn't moved yet, but his body has. And it goes even further right here. So that body starts the action, and then the hand pulls the hat to him. This is really nice weight play. You guys see that? It's very subtle, but it's very important. Really nice weight play. I would just, first thing I would say, I would just make it a little bit smoother. It feels like it comes to just too much of a halt right here. And changes from translation, then boop, okay, now rotation time. I would blend those together a little bit more, personally. Silhouette-wise, this is also very, very strong because we have those, the staging is very strong. We also have, a lot of, great play of this negative space. I love how the brim of the hat goes in this negative space. We get a little bit of sliver going on the other side. Don't avoid that like the plague. Don't change your poses, all the time to try to avoid that like outright. That's not worth your time. But this is just super strong in terms of silhouette. That's great. I'm not 100% sure of the facial performance or really what the story is. It almost looks like pain, or he heard something that he's not supposed to, or didn't want to hear. I would go smoother into that. Both of those don't need to be as quick a reaction. What's happening is it almost looks like he's flinching from pain. And then when we see the gun right on the way out, right there, we obviously know, oh man, this guy is getting up. He's going to go take care of business. That's his MO right now. So we get it. I think we can just go from this start pose. Don't have any, don't waste any time. Just go right into that transition to that facial pose. I think that'll clarify it. I think that'll make it seem like he's like, all right, here I go, kind of performance. It is also a little bit of a motion that you do on the hand. It looks like you're clenching the hand and you're making it so that he takes, just a second to wait to reach for the hat. My instinct is that that doesn't need to be opposed. You can have it sort of start on the way to the hat, and it can be a very sort of like a slow stall into the speed that he's going to reach for the hat eventually. You hit a couple walls. Right here, I feel like you hit like a little bit of a wall. On the upper chest. Also, looks like you're using the upper chest control translation. The volume in the spine, I feel like it's growing. I'm looking at this periphery right here, and it feels like the volume is changing. I'm not sure if you're using the translation on there. It's very stiff in the shoulders. Very stiff in the shoulders. As he's raising his arm, just a tiny little bit of rotation towards us in the rotate Z of those shoulders would go a long way. Would go a very long way. As he reaches out, this nose takes a little bit of a weird arc. It does what I call a nose squiggle. We're very used to tracking the nose. Whenever we're tracking arcs in the face, the nose is a big shape. Also, it's like the point. So it's like the sword that we're swishing around in space. His nose kind of comes down and does like what I like to call the nose squiggle, where you have a lot of kind of micro movements on the body, chest, neck, and head, and it all kind of just boils down to the end of your arc, or the slow into your head pose boils down to kind of like a little bit of like drawing calligraphy with that nose. And it happens, yours is very short-lived. It happens over like 3 or 4 frames. But just take a look, around frame 16 or so. Take a look at that. As for the stand-up, don't have him. He pushes the weight goes from the right to the left for me too quickly. Don't have him push off and in screen space lose that left to right momentum. What did I just do? Did I just screw this up? Yes, I did. All right, I somehow cut that together. It somehow moved the range back and forth. Let me just open it again. Anyway, what I'm talking about is it feels like he's standing up. And to our eye, it's a little jarring for him to be standing up. It looks like this rotation is going to continue, in his hips. It's going to oppose his upper body, and he's going to move out on a kind of a smooth arc to the right. But then what ends up happening is you change directions on him, and this doesn't feel like you have much weight, because he would still have to be a little bit hunched over to continue to stand up at the pace that he is if he had weight. All of a sudden he's able to change his direction even while standing up, and to kind of like make matters worse, you have just his like little fingertips. And I understand that this rig has really cool control like on fingertips and stuff like that, but I would say that probably if anything they should be flat and they kind of like peel off, rather than just the fingertips are kind of on display. You're really kind of featuring those fingertips right now. So just a combination of that hand pose and how he changes from right to left is taking a little bit of your weight away. I understand he needs to get away from the table, but I would experiment if I were you with another idea for just trying to continue that sort of weight setup, that weight explanation throughout the end of the shot. Okay. Last thing I'll say is let's have this hand animate through that contact. Let's not have a hand that kind of like places and kind of just is like stuck there. He would put it on his head, and immediately, once it's the grip is lost on it, just have it kind of like coming down. Maybe those fingers, if you really are into like lots of finger detail, take it out of the end there and put it into the hat, where he puts it on his head, and the hand starts, kind of like coming around the head and whatever. But what I see on yours, he kind of places it up there and then kind of comes a little bit cleanly off of it. It's a little bit, the way a robot would put his hat on. Even if a robot had fluid movement, it would put the hat on, and then it would be like, okay, return arm to table, and it would kind of like go out the same way it came in. Does that make sense? So sort of animate a little bit more through. You do a little bit right here, just like 1 or 2 frames. It should that dynamic should start the moment you feel his grip is lost on the hat and he's no longer placing it or positioning it. I would say. Good contact on the hand back down to the table. I like how you fast into that. That's good. That's very good. All right, that's all I'll say. Monica, great work. Let's have a hand for Monica. Cool. Cool. All right. Nicole Bloom. one of my former students at AM and longtime KennyRoy.com member. I would not have expected Nicole to miss the AnimGym. It's very much her style. Oh, that's dope. Oh, it's really cool. Like I said, this is the first time I'm seeing these, you guys. So this reaction is the gut reaction. Okay, Nicole, what is strong about this right off the bat is you're cleverly changing the sort of the point of the shot or the dynamic of the shot from getting the hat on the head to everything before and after. This shot is not about the getting the hat on the head. This shot is about, a flourish and then a presentation kind of pose. This is kind of how I feel like the magician from Presto would put the hat on. And in fact, he almost looks like a magician with his white gloves and the type of hat you've chosen. To that end, I would say this though. A little bit more presentational style from the character, from the performance, before and after would go a long way. Okay? So, starting it off with him looking at us. Okay? Starting right off with him, in a pose, looking at us and taking, a little bit more of a bigger step, opening up and really kind of like putting on display, here is the hat. And then, so delaying that so that you're going to start running out of frames. What that's going to do to you is going to force you to make that a lot snappier. So here it is, and then whoop to the head, and then at the end as well. At the end, have a lot more of a explosive coming out of that hat on the head pose, explode out of that, and slow into a even bigger, more grandiose, stronger silhouette presentational pose. You're going to run out of frames on the end as well. So basically what it'll do is it'll be a presentation with a really elegant slow, we'll slow out of that into the very, very snappy moment when it goes on his head and his head is down and everything is kind of covered, and then he'll have to just pop right out of that into that big, here it is, here I am kind of pose. So I think animating this with a little bit more tempo would have kind of served you. Okay? Remember, for those of you who are not KennyRoy.com members and you don't know what the heck I just said, animating with tempo is sort of my new finagled method. I'm still working out the terminology. I'm still working out like how to really strongly explain it. I've done one lecture on it, and we're continuing the conversation in video mails and whatever about tempo. But what it basically boils down to is getting your really exceptional timing choices on screen as fast as possible, almost disregarding posing, which is kind of the opposite of what you're taught. But once you are really good at posing, then you don't really need to take the time to pose things if you can always get there. Once you get good at posing, you kind of get posing for free. It's your timing that's going to set your animation apart. So at any rate, what I'm talking about is if you had worked a little bit more with tempo on this, I think you would have had some more instincts to kind of like push it towards what I was, what I just performed there. See how it feels a little bit, now when we watch it again, it feels a little bit even, doesn't it? It's like left, right, up, right? Left, right, up, like that. See what I'm talking about? So Definitely, maybe, Nicole, it won't take you too long to do like one more pass on this and try to push it towards that very interesting timing that I was talking about. So start with that presentation, slow out of that, zip to that hat, and then burst out of that hat moment and slow into your last presentation pose. Okay, and he looks a little stoic at the end. Let's have him like really give us a ta-da kind of moment, but it should feel something a little more like this. Like that, right? I like to. You notice I can't do a performance without having like big like pops and breaths and sound effects. You can't get the energy without letting it out. I mean, otherwise that air is stuck inside you and it's inside you. So if you guys are doing these high performance, high energy, especially cartoony video references, and you're like holding your breath, you're killing yourself on energy. Yeah. So basically, this is two-staged, not TOO. I don't know double-staged. This is double-staged when it doesn't need to be. Have him looking at us and sweep into this downward pose right here, right? Okay, and this can be even lower, I would say. But when he takes a step over here and finishes that step, and then he's still kind of bringing this all together and up to his head, those are all frames that you need to bias towards the beginning and the very end, I would say. Okay? And you pop out of it. I mean, the way you pop out of it is actually pretty close to what I was talking about. I just think the pop out of it will happen more towards the middle of the shot. Okay? In the bigger version, in the more snappy version. And then when he pops out of it, really have him, boom, here I am, kind of a super strong pose, I think. Feet are a little static, which is giving us, you're kind of getting away with a little bit of it because we can't see any detail within the silhouette, but if I'm watching, the legs are stretching a lot, over and over. So we get kind of a little bit of a, like a rubber band kind of feeling in that lower body, okay? So just watch your range. Your range is very important. Yeah, I really feel, Nicole, that you just go back to this, have an eye for tempo, and then you'll get really far with this. And then one more thing, you really want, when you zip into this pose, you really want, this should be a goal of yours, you really want to make it so that it doesn't feel like everything is kind of like flashing and then getting hidden, and like the whole thing is like kind of like a visual trick. You don't want this to be a trick. You want it to feel only like the hat is getting zipped up to the head and he's taking a pose with that on his head, and then he bursts out of it. And here's why I'm saying that, because you have a big black shape, and as I watch it move across right here, that hand is disappearing behind his body. And it almost feels like, look, I just kind of like scraped the hand. Look, now you see it, now you don't. You see that? So there's a lot of things going on at the exact same time. With all of this all these moving parts, it becomes very important to look frame by frame. And my advice would be, once you have the timing down, go frame by frame and don't worry about kind of like breaking arcs or breaking whatever, in order to get keep the clarity of what this action is, which is just the hat on the head. You're not trying to like like hide things or do any sort of like magic tricks, okay? Because we have the schema of a magician. We feel like something is always going to, like, something magic is always going to happen, right? Like, keep us from going there is basically what I'm saying. Keep us from going there in our minds. All right. Watch Burning Safari, please, for me, and just frame through it. And the amount that you can break between frames is astounding. And just look at that short, and you'll see what I'm talking about. This is great, though. I'm very happy with this. Let's give Nicole a round of applause. Thank you and good job. Thank you and good job. Okay, so I'm going to spend about I don't know, like another like 5-10 minutes here. If anyone has any more questions, I can answer them, but go ahead and type them in. Just while you're thinking of your question, I'm going to just say one more time, thank you for coming. And oh, let me really quickly grab the book. Just 1 second. Here we are. Sorry about that. I will. Always seems like there's one thing that's left unprepared whenever I do a webcast. Here's the book. It's called Sam's Teach Yourself Maya in 24 Hours. 24 one-hour lessons that covers everything from modeling to texturing, UVing, rigging, and animation. I wrote this book, co-authored it with Fiona Rivera, who was fantastic. She was a lifesaver. It's 486 pages, and it comes with a DVD of all of the source files. And it is a great companion for animators that just want to get a little bit of generalist knowledge, just don't want to be so afraid of the rest of Maya's modules. And I think it's a really valuable book, and that's why I wrote it. So Sam's Teach Yourself Maya in 24 Hours. Now, how are we going to decide who gets this book? How are we going to decide? I want to do trivia, darn it, but I can't because I want to do trivia because but I can't because it's bandwidth. Someone who has like a really super fast connection is going to get it. Okay, so this is what I'm going to do. Are you all signed in? All right, this is what I'm going to do. Okay, cool. Okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to write a number down. And everyone guess, but only one guess per person. Don't guess twice. Okay, I'm going to guess it's a number between 1 and 50. Okay, and then if nobody gets right on, then it'll be the closest. Okay, between 1 and 50. And if you guess the same as somebody else, that don't guess again, okay? I will do a tiebreaker between you two, okay? If you guess the same as somebody else, okay? Has everybody guessed? Anybody not guessed? Thank you, Eugene, for coming. I'm glad you're here, man. Okay, everyone guessed? Here's a number, 41. I think I saw a 39 in there. Is the closest. Hosea. Hosea. Congratulations, Hosea. Okay. Hosea, send me an email with your address. I'm going to sign it right now. Sign it on the second page next to my name. There we go. All right. That's yours now, man. I will send that to you. Congratulations. Okay, so let me answer some questions and then we're going to bug out here. All right. You mentioned you never bend fingers backwards. That's, I guess it's a personal style choice. I would recommend it as a rule, unless you're doing some really extreme cartoony stuff where you want to like have like a really kind of like a whipped action. It's almost more of a smear on the fingers than it is like the finger pose. A really good example is the 11-second club entry that I did the mentor critique for. I can't remember when it was, like last year, and it was the Indian clip, and it was the guy playing the sitar. He's like bling bling bling. Anyway, the guy's yelling at him. He's like blah, 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 and like he whips his hand and it bends all over the place. A perfect use of the bent fingers. Jeff, when I say full body performance, am I referring to framing the character so we see him from head to toe, or do I mean make it feel like? I mean both, but you could frame it, you know, like I am right now, and it would really feel, I mean, because I'm on the ground right now, and you know that I'm like not penetrating through the ground, and I'm actually, you know, doing like little weight shifts, right? Like if you could animate this, right, then you'd be fine. I would totally believe that it's a full body performance. You don't necessarily have to show the whole thing, but normally the best way to get the exercise, remember the AnimGym is about exercise. The best way to get the exercise you need is more than likely to frame it so that you can see the feet, so you can't cheat, right? So anyway, Rebecca, this cast will be every single month. The AnimGym topic this month for October is flipping an egg. Okay, very, very simple. Every single one will be a simple antic that will take 48 to 72 frames and easily completed within, you know, 1 or 2 sessions of work. If you can only work on it, you know, a couple days out of the month, then that's perfect because you can get that exercise out of the way. It will be, normally, Rebecca, it will be the first Friday after the close date of the exercise of the AnimGym. So this is the first Friday after we closed on, I think it was, what, Monday? No, Tuesday was October 1st. So there we go. Normally, same time. It's just super convenient for me. I'm at the office. It's lunch now. I'm gonna go get some food. So yeah, somewhere around now. Okay. Anyone have any more questions before I go? I want to make sure I get everybody. No? Okay. Well, thank you for coming. You are watching this on kennyroy.com. This is my animation training portal. If you have never seen this, please take a look around. There is a free trial link underneath me right now. No obligation. Just cancel before 30 days and you will not be charged. If you are on the free trial and you want to be part of the AnimGym, you will get a critique. So join the free trial, do the AnimGym, rock out in the forums, kick butt on your animation. We'll all do some really awesome stuff together, okay? You work, I work. That's how it works. All right, guys. Again, it's been a pleasure. Good luck with your animation. And as always, rock on.